Well, hello, welcome to TBH with Grotto. I'm Steph DePrez, and we are so thrilled to have Father Stephen here with us today.
Hey,
And so,
Steph,
hey, where are you joining us from?
from Arkansas, the Diocese of Little Rock in the state of Arkansas.
Oh my goodness, that is very far away from where I am, but very cool. Well, so we're just going to jump right in. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your work. Like, what is your day job? I'm kidding.
Well, I'm off every day of the week except Sunday. I only work on Sundays. No, that's not it. So I'm Father Stephen Gadberry, a diocesan priest for the Diocese of Little Rock. That's in the state of Arkansas. I grew up on a small family farm in the Mississippi Delta, northeast Arkansas, just across the river from Memphis, Tennessee. Worked there as I was growing up as a child, then got some couple little jobs. After high school, I went to a small community college for a year and absolutely hated it and told God I was never going to go to school again. And then I went to the military, and that was great. I was in Texas, in Germany, I was in Iraq. And then in the time while I was in the military is when I heard the calling, you could say. My vocation became apparent. The Lord was like, "Hey, I would like you to, I want you to drop your nets and follow me." And so I said, "Okay." And then the Lord was also like, and it's going to be 8 more years of school. So it was really cool though. My time in the military, I had sort of an intellectual conversion and just fell in love with education and learning and study. So those 8 years were amazing. I was in Southern Louisiana for 4 years at St. Joseph's Abbey and Seminary. It was Benedictine monastery. We record this today on the Feast of Saint Scholastica, so just a beautiful saint there. And then for theology, I spent 4 years in Rome, studied at the Gregorian University, and then I got a specialization in Joseph Ratzinger, so all of Pope Benedict's stuff before he became Pope, and then also Saint Augustine. And I was ordained in 2016, so that's kind of a broad, strokes of my life. I've always been very active, hardworking, athletic, never like top of the peer, top of the list athlete, but I work hard, and so that always helped me get a lot of ground. And athletics, I'm passionate about hunting and archery as well.
Nice. Well, so I come from a service family. What branch were you in?
I was in the Air Force.
Oh, very nice. My dad was Navy. What part of Germany were you stationed in?
I was in Ramstein.
Of course, Rammstein. Yeah, I do stand up comedy, and one of my hopes is to be able to do a USO gig as like a local who they don't have to pay for.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, unrelated to anything, but that's awesome. Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
So obviously as someone who's like been in the military and like been in sort of like present in many sort of different scenes, like you could say like, like I imagine that going to school in the Gregorium is very different from like being, active duty. What is your relationship with your body like, and how has it changed?
Yeah, wonderful question, Steph. Actually, I found, to be honest with you, a lot of similarities between the military and seminary formation and priestly life. And what I mean is, no war is won by a single soldier, or by a single seaman or airman or marine. Like it's the whole military together, and that's really the mission of the church. Like we do this together. So this aspect of unity there, the uh, answering a higher call, the openness, the willingness to die to yourself, sometimes even literally, for the sake of others. There's a lot of similarities there. The daily uniform, it's always another thing. So those two things really played in together. But the neat thing about it is both of them, in addition to the external structures of just daily life, that naturally plays into an internal structure that we desire and strive to maintain. And to have an internal harmony with the external requires like the body in a way to be that bridge. And so the more discipline that we have physically, mentally, helps us with the emotional, spiritual side, and also the external things that we can't control. So the body sort of being that bridge between the depths of our soul and the crazy world around us.
Yeah, I love that idea of the body as bridge, sort of like between the emotional and the tactile, like, the relationships here and then the relationships that where you're actually engaging.
Yeah, I've never said that before, and I've never even thought of it. I've never heard it either, so it just came to me just right now. So if it's heretical, I repent all of it. But if it's not, then yeah, I did say
It's from
that.
Saint
Yeah.
Scholastica. So thank you. Great. So who is your favorite saint?
Um, I love them all.
I know it's like pick a child.
Right, Blessed Stanley Rother. Actually, I got this big image of him right here. We kind of look alike, but Blessed Stanley Rother, he was a priest for the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City. Farm boy, very, very simple, hardworking guy, just a lot of similarities there. He ended up, after being ordained a few years, ended up going to Guatemala to serve the people in Santiago Atitlan in Guatemala. And he was eventually killed, literally martyred. They shot him because the just the political environment in the 80s, the 70s and early 80s. He was killed in 81.
Sounds like
They saw him.
sister territory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of Maryknoll's worked down there with him, and they saw him as a threat because the people loved him and trusted him, and they flocked around him because he led them to Christ. He connected himself to the people, of course, through preaching and the sacraments, but he was also with the people in their daily lives. He taught them newer ways to farm. He built a radio station for them, clinics and schools, all with his hands, and just a hardworking guy who was with his people. So Blessed Stanley Rother is what I really love.
I've heard him before. That's wonderful. I'm gonna have to go do some Googling after this. That's great.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to have a healthy body?
To have a healthy body would be to have a balanced body, I would say. So it's that's maybe a very vague answer, but media, culture, society tells us that to be healthy requires an extreme, but an extreme in anything is unhealthy. So to have a healthy body is to have a balanced body, and I would say a body that is tuned to facilitate the work that you do. For example, yeah. So if a mother has a few kids and she's not healthy enough to even pick up her own child or something, then it would, barring any medical thing, it would be good for her to do some sort of fitness to get to the point to where she can fully care for her child. Or if a father is responsible for taking care of his family and working all day, and he's too lazy to get out of bed, then part of health would be learning how to have some discipline and take care of the self, to the point that you can provide for your family. But then also the other extreme would be that if a mother or father or a priest, for example, is focusing so much on their health that they're denying or turning away from their vocation or their calling, then it becomes unhealthy on that regard too. So health in a very generic way, I think, would be the ability to carry out one's daily vocation, and doing what's necessary to maintain that physical, mental, psychological health, without taking one away from their vocation. Maybe that was a little theoretical.
No, that's great. You had the great phrase that you said at the beginning of this is that a healthy body is one that is tuned to the task that one needs to do. And I love that. So I'm a musician, and I love the idea of, like, when you're tuning, then you're able to sort of work in concert with what you need to do. So, like, if you've tuned your body, then you are able to participate in, sort of the corporate task of whatever community you're in. I think that's a great phrase. And you kind of gave us an example of my second couple of questions here. So just for time, I'll keep moving. How can the church help inform our understanding of what it means to be in good physical health and tuned correctly with one's body? And are there any resources that you would suggest?
Great. You got some fantastic questions this morning. I think a big thing, of course, is just the ancient tradition of the church of the via media, just the middle way, just the balance that I was just speaking of. And for the sake of not complicating it for the people, like, what is the middle of the road? And applying that to training and exercise, is going out and running a marathon every day really necessary or essential for your daily good? And this may even be cut out. I'm not sure, but because I really don't have a very concrete answer for it, other than just maintaining the middle way and just a balanced approach to daily life. Yeah, sorry, I kind of let you down on
No,
that one.
I love it. I love it. Actually, you've got my brain going. This is all good stuff. So the obvious question, how can we as Catholics navigate a culture that prioritizes and rewards smaller bodies for women and more built bodies for men as just sort of, the like it's just we're constantly told it our whole lives, regardless of context. How do we as Catholics navigate it?
Wow. So our physical body should, going back to the image of earlier, that bridge between the depths of our soul and the incarnate material world around us. It should be a bridge. It should be something that reveals an instrument through which we reveal the depths of our souls. It does not define who we are, but it's rather the instrument that proclaims that message. And so I think taking care of our bodies can can serve as that conduit for being the voice for the depths of the soul. And so, just trying to think of a concrete example right now for that. The body doesn't define who we are, but it serves as an instrument of revealing who we are in the depths of our soul. Very often, we allow our soul to be defined from the externals that come in, whereas the body should be that voice or that instrument that we use to really proclaim who we are. So um, as soon as we think that we have to change who we are to fit a particular image that someone else tells us to live up to, then we start getting into murky waters. God has created us out of an abundance of his love, and that should pour out into our daily lives through the things that we do, um, and through who we are physically. So yeah, the body doesn't define who we are, but rather it's an instrument through which we can.
Yeah, it's important. Like it's
Yeah.
how we engage with the world. But yeah, yeah. No, I think that's great. I always think about the hands of Christ in the world, like the hands and feet of Christ in the world. Christ has no body now, but yours. And I think of whenever like having a down period where I'm like, oh, I'm terrible, I'm fat, I will never get married, I never have children. The things that I dream of doing. I always have to back up and be like, oh, you are the body of Christ in the world. Like
Yeah.
you are the hands of Christ. And that's a calming mantra that I come back to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So as someone who wants to have a body that engages with the world and is a good bridge between the spiritual and the external, how do you build your own body care, like working out, nutrition, making sort of space for allowing your body to experience pleasure, like not sort of denying everything, scrupulously, like, so how do you design that for yourself personally?
Wow, you've got some fantastic questions, Steph. So
Thank you.
how do we
I
go?
really hope my editor hears that.
I really think that again, maybe these answers are too simple, but I think simple is effective. Simple works. But how do we make the plan before getting into little details? Just the structure that we should have is it should be simple, it should be concrete, it should be doable. I think that is essential for anything in life. And we're about to come into Lent. And very often we can make some very unrealistic Lenten resolutions, just like we do at New Year's oftentimes. But I think to be simple, to be concrete, and to have doable things is the best first step. So being honest with where you're at in your own journey. What does your physical abilities allow you to do? What is your strength like? Your endurance? What is your weight like? So recognize those things, make those observations, and then honestly recognize in your own life, like, what are you actually capable of doing? So if you want to, like, say, well, I'm going to start working out for an hour every day for 5 days a week, but you don't have that time, then you're setting yourself up for failure.
Who has promised this and failed? I have. I
And
made
every
that promise. I did not follow through.
because you're human, and and so there's something about embracing that journey of it's so cliche, but it's just committing to the journey and not the outcome. If you keep showing up, it'll work. So some advice that I tell people whenever they ask me for like training advice, before I even get into details of weights or reps or distances or times, things like that, is to say, break an intentional sweat every day. Just
Mm,
something that simple. Okay. So here in Arkansas, I can get hot. And And so in addition to just sweating in the summertime, like I try to make it an intention, like a focus to sweat at least once a day or something, you know? Um, and so what work would make me do that? And that's kind of a good way of gauging, of getting started because it's going to be different for each person. Um,
Yeah. I did really intense weightlifting at one point in my life. It ended up being slightly unhealthy, but at the time it was like the thing that made me go was I thought I had to be at the gym for 90 minutes. And then I realized like no, like if I just do really specific reps in this order and I vary them, I can be in and out in half an hour and I don't like if I just do it every day, I'm not like I had this like mental commitment where it's like I have to give all of my time and energy to getting to the gym. And it's like, no, like it was not nearly what I'd anticipated. And I'd built up this like relationship with the gym that was just not reality. It's like, no,
cool.
you can go and break a sweat and then build up.
I love how you said that you created the relationship with the gym that was not reality. I think one of the most essential things that we can do for our health is to be realistic. And one of the realities for the great majority of humanity right now is that we are stressed out. We never slow down. So when it comes to physical health, emotional health, psychological health, health of the whole person, chill out. Like that's probably so much obesity and health problems and stress and anxiety is caused because we don't stop. We don't take a rest day, to use, fitness terms. If
Yeah.
you work every day and don't properly fuel your body and give your body time for recovery, you will never make progress or gains. And and that's true in so many levels of life. Stop, chill out. Like we're not going to save ourselves and we're not going to save the world. That's the job of Christ when we participate. And if we run ourselves ragged, we're totally useless instruments. So one of the best bits of overall health advice would be chill out. Chill out.
Mm,
Now, we got to go back to the extremes and or stay in the middle. Like don't that doesn't justify sitting on the couch and eating five bags of popcorn and a bottle of Mountain Dew every day because Father said to chill out. Like, get off the couch.
yes. We are not in college anymore.
Right, right.
Yeah. Wow, very. I like this. I feel like I'm sort of going. You've sort of taken us in a different direction, but I very much like this direction. So if you'll permit me just a couple more questions, I know we've gone over time.
Yeah.
But so if I am interested in getting more physically active, and like maybe I've had small children and finally they're at school, or maybe I'm finally I bought a house and I'm feeling comfortable and I'm going to be here a while, or I've been in my job for 3 months and now things have calmed down, but I do not know how to begin a relationship with physical exercise in a way like I feel like there's a lot of people, myself included, who have tried everything. Like I've done kickboxing, I've done Bikram yoga, and nothing manages to be consistent and to stay. Like I have spent too much money on memberships that I never end up using past like 2 months. How would you what would you say to someone who's has the time and space to really begin an intentional, healthy relationship with physical movement, sort of like looking at that landscape and starting out?
Wonderful question because this is a reality for so many people. I've never put it in these terms, but I would say look for people and not programs because so often we look for programs, but we do not establish relationships with programs. We establish relationships with people. My own experiences and the experiences of so many people I know that have had fitness programs that have stuck, that have worked, have been predominantly because of the relationships that they made at those places. Find people that you enjoy being around. That could be a friend, a coach, maybe somebody you've never even met before, but you're like, this person just has some good energy about them. I like being around them. Or this gym looks like it's full of joyful people and not miserable meatheads. So I would rather go to this gym than this other gym, you know?
Ah, that's so good. Like, yeah,
Uh,
you're developing a relationship with people and not with places. That's so true. My mom passed away during the pandemic, and the only thing I could do was outdoor yoga, like distance yoga, based on what was allowed in the community at the time. And I met these frustrated, cooped up moms who just needed to go, let's steam out on our, on grass with our yoga mats. And I loved them. And they didn't even blink an eye when I showed up. I was like, we went from dealing with hospice to dealing with funeral stuff. And
Yeah.
they were just like every morning, they'd be like, all right, how you doing? Do you need to cry? Like, let's go. And I loved those moms. They were so great. I mean, that's why I went to yoga that summer. Like, it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with health. It had everything to do with, I had a community of like women who were going to be like, oh, like, girl, if you just want to lie on your mat for the next 20 minutes, that's fine. And I was just like, I love
Sign me up for that. That's good.
that.
Yeah. I think very often we pursue programs too much though. And that's often connected to images. And where do we get that? We get that from lies that we tell ourselves and from what the media and culture and society are telling us, instead of allowing the Holy Spirit to work through us and lead us into more deeper relationships with people around us. So that would be the advice I would give for that. Um, start relationships. Don't start a program. Everything else will work itself out if your relationships are in place.
So good. That's so good. All right. I know I want to respect your time and I know I got to wrap this up. So my last question is, what offers you hope in the world today?
What offers me hope in the world today? This is maybe a crazy answer, but I would say the chaos of my daily life. Now, it stresses me out. I'll be honest, Steph. Like, I get to the rectory so often at night, and I'm just thinking, like, and praying, like, dear God, what just happened today? And usually it's not that poetic or that nice. Usually it's some kind of a mean prayer to God, like, why did you let all this stuff happen today to me? But uh, the chaos, because whenever I can slow down, going back to the point I was talking about earlier of just being still, when I can slow down and be still and reflect on all the chaos, I see the Lord's hand there. And so, as crazy as it is, the spontaneity of life is what gives me hope. It
Hmm.
stresses me out, but whenever I stay grounded and focused on the Lord, then the chaos makes sense. He's the light in the darkness. He's the order to the chaos. He brings peace to the anxiety. That's what our God does. So I think the chaos, whenever I lean into that and feel the Lord's presence there and see Him working, like that's what gives me hope.
Hmm. Yeah, it's sort of like, look at the thing that causes you the most frustration, because that might be your salvation is somewhere in that.
Yeah, yeah. You
That's
know,
so good.